Hi everybody, welcome to another pulse-pounding episode of Classic Board Game Rewind. This week we're going to be talking about the deluxe version of Car Wars. Or was it this version of Car Wars? Or this version of... We're going to be talking about Car Wars and the history of Car Wars. So stick right with me and let's take a look at all the stuff I got. Car Wars is a game that's been around since the early 80s, and I think it was around 78, 79, possibly 80. It's a Steve Jackson's games. Right after he made Ogre, I believe he made Car Wars. And it was almost kind of like a Mad Max type of game where you get to build your car and put rockets and oil slicks and flamethrowers, and then you would take your car and really just build something very personal. There were so many expansions to this. It had such, like every game I pretty much talk about in Classic Board Game Rewind, enormous cult following to this day. As a matter of fact, this here is the latest version to come out this year. Nice little box set with, as you can see, oil slicks, and we'll take a look at that. The cars, comes with the dial, of course, dice, and of course a fold-out map. Now, in the early days, a lot of people either substituted them for micro machines, or they would cut out the cardboards and just soup them up and stuff. Looking at the original, I think this is the 1980 version of it. It was actually called Auto Dueler to begin with, I believe. And as you can see here, here's one of the first expansions for it. Let me make sure I get that in there. There we go. And it came with Off-Road Dueling expansion set, and to this day I still haven't really opened it up and done much with it. Had to have it though. They had a magazine which was called Auto Duel Quarterly that would come out, and they would just give you different types of things that you could put in there. They show you how to build different cars, different maps, different ways to buy cars and put together cars, advanced maneuvering system, showing you how to use your turn plate. I mean, it just was, there was no end to it. And as you can see, there were plenty of magazines to go with it. And I pretty much had everything. This early version I was able to get actually had roadways. So if we got this all out of the way, and you can see I still have uncut cars and tractors and semis. We actually had a thing where we used to do a racetrack that would go on, and you would take your car and you would move it with your dial. Let me grab one out of here so we can get a good look at it. Here's your vehicle sheet, and you would have a speed track that would keep track of how fast you were going, and that would determine on where you would turn and how you would be able to turn on your dial. Your handling would disappear. You would have to pay for certain types of weapons, your weight, your chassis, your suspension, all the costs, your handling class, where you ended up. Things would roll off that, your acceleration, how much you would, and then you would build the damage depending on the armor that you had around your car. You would draw in your blocks, and every time you would lose one, your engine, your rear armor, your front armor, your side armor, you had to pay for all that. So if you were given a certain amount, it was kind of tough to do. So here you would have your car, and as you can see, it fit onto a hex. Let's take a closer look here. There we go. See, I'm getting a little better at this eventually. And depending on your speed and everything, you could turn certain degrees. Taking a hard degree turn would cost you a certain amount of tires and stuff. So you would take, and if you had to make a turn, maybe you had a side weapon you wanted to use against somebody, you need to be facing that particular person who's coming at you, and then you would roll against their armor and what the weapon's power was. Now these were just some of the tracks that I had in here. Let's just get this out of the way here. There were also huge maps, countryside maps with roads, and you would put these things together. Let's back that out a bit. How about all the way? There we go. And these maps would take up a good 4-foot table. And you would drive, possibly there's a jump here, you would have to see if you were able to jump, driving around and just actually race and have like a death race. There's another map to this, another side to it. I was planning on getting these laminated because they're old, but I have so many maps I don't even know what to do. Oh, what did I do? Oh, here we go. Here's the other off-road map. As you can see, they had a city map with buildings where you would be able to crash through windows. There was a blank, your basic, you could just draw your own type of thing, or cut out cardboard and make your own city map. Or they actually had a physical map with buildings and offices and hangars and stuff. It was a very in-depth game. Here's some of the other. We had pit stop areas. We had an actual physical racetrack that we would use. Let's take a look at some of these other boxes I have. And the rules were constantly evolving. It just kept growing. I know this box had it, but oh well. Can't have everything. This is the very first edition I had some, God, talking 35, 36 years ago. It's quite a long time. And in here, here's where I kept here's where I kept my city maps, where you would run through Midville. Let's take a look at it. There we go. This is one half of Midville. So you would drive up and down the streets, through the buildings, breaking through things, taking damage in your front, warring, trying to destroy each other. Such a great game. And if you guys have a chance to go out there and pick it up, I suggest you pick it up. Here's all the old cars from the old days. Weapon charts. You would roll 2d6. I actually had a Car Wars reference screen that everybody would use, and your modifying tables. You would roll 2d6, and if you were going 50, like 80 miles, in order to, you would be able to move 2 spaces at speed 1, and it would adjust according to, making your movement control table was on this side. Your combat modifiers. Let's take a look. If you were a specific target, if you were trying to shoot a pedestrian, it was -3 on your roll. So there were all kinds of things that just went into this. All the different types of weapons you had. You had lasers, you had flamethrowers. You could drop gases, dropping liquids, oils, high temperature fuel, ice, depth charges. For boats, there were actually rules for boats. As you can see, I had quite a few of these turning mechanisms because a lot of us. Auto dueler. this was another that had for aircrafts and boats and helicopters. They had a second edition compendium which covered everything that you could want. As you can see, I had quite a bit of stuff in here, and a lot of stuff I haven't even cut open. Helicopters and boats and trailers, whoops, ambulance, motorcycles. Oh God, I do have a lot. Just an all-around great futuristic game. And it's one that's very supported today. You can go get this beginning box here, which I showed you everything that was in it. It's available today. You could still get this, and I think it's fairly cheap. I think it's like $14, and the map's pretty big, and it's a good way to get started. And then if you want, you can go on eBay and try to find, if you like the game, and try to find some of the other stuff that you have. So that was a quick look at Car Wars. As you can see, it has quite a rich history, as do most of Steve Jackson games. Started quite a while ago and still keeps going today. I wish they would do a deluxe edition of this like they did Ogre, but they said after all the work that they went through with Ogre that they'll never do anything like that again. So that's it for Car Wars, and next week, matter of fact, speaking of Ogre, we'll be looking at Ogre. I actually have all the metal figures as well as the latest deluxe edition, which I think maybe we'll do a nice little playthrough, and maybe someday I'll get the kids to learn this and we'll do a playthrough of this. But this was Classic Board Game Rewind, and a nice look at Car Wars. Hope you enjoyed it.